I have done at least 3 videos on the subject of imposter syndrome on this channel, which is when you're awarded a new belt in jiu-jitsu, but you feel unworthy of that promotion. But apparently we need to keep talking about it because I got an email the other day from somebody who has a terrible case of imposter syndrome. And I won't read it because he gives some personal details and I don't want to dox this guy. But he's an older gentleman, a little older than me. He's been training for a couple years and his coach awarded him the blue belt. This guy is so convinced that it was a mercy promotion, that he's totally, wildly undeserving of this belt, that he hasn't been back to class since. Let's talk about it. I'm fortunate in that I've never suffered from imposter syndrome throughout any of my belt promotions. Yeah, of course, it feels a little strange to walk in to class wearing that new belt, that stiff belt that doesn't feel familiar like your old belt does. But I've never really had that sense of being an imposter. And, that could have to do with self-confidence because ultimately imposter syndrome means that you have a lack of confidence in your ability to represent that new belt. And so it's, at its core, it's a confidence thing. But I will say the first time I experienced something that you could call imposter syndrome was the first time as a black belt, I had to teach a jiu-jitsu class full of other black belts. And there's that moment when you say, these guys are as good as me. Is there anything I can teach them? So I got to experience a little bit of that, but generally no. Although imposter syndrome seems to be really common out there. It's probably more common than not that people feel unworthy of that belt. And I actually think that that's a positive thing. I think that the major benefit of the belt system in jiu-jitsu, because a lot of guys, they don't like the belt system in jiu-jitsu. They think we should just train no-gi or we should train it, with no belts. Everybody wears a white belt and that's that. And yeah, that would certainly eliminate imposter syndrome. Nobody would ever feel, anything like that. But what happens to everybody when you've been a particular belt for a while, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you will be incredibly comfortable wearing that belt. Imposter syndrome is only something that affects someone new when you've just been promoted. Once you've been that belt for a while, you don't feel any imposter syndrome. You feel very, very comfortable, maybe even too comfortable, because sometimes the difference between, let's say, a late stage blue belt and an early stage purple belt has nothing to do with their game technically. It has to do with their mentality, how they're approaching the game, how much effort they're giving you. And as a coach, sometimes you make a choice to award the belt to someone because you know that that's exactly the medicine they need to flip that switch and start representing what that next belt is. And so that's the major benefit of the belts, is that it dislodges you from the comfort of your old belt and forces you to now take your game a little bit more seriously and do a little bit more work to definitively represent that belt. And so let me ask you a question. What does a blue belt mean anyway? What is a blue belt expected to know? Well, a blue belt is someone that is still a beginner. You're an advanced beginner and you have some basic competence with the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu. There's still a lot that you don't know about jiu-jitsu, but you're competent. And this guy who emailed me, he doesn't feel like he's competent. Why? Because he's comparing himself to everybody else in the room that's way, way younger than him. He says he rarely gets the tap. Well, I'll let you in on a secret. I rarely got the tap either when I was a new blue belt. You're just not that skilled yet, honestly. You're just not that skilled. Usually by blue belt, you have one thing, maybe two things that kind of work for you, and you hit them now and again, and those eventually will become something that you're deadly at if you keep working on those things. But usually blue belts don't have a wide arsenal. So getting the stalemating or not getting the tap is common. And this guy also said that he gets tapped quite a bit. Well, this guy is older by decades than his training partners. And so I think that you need to recalibrate, as I mentioned in the last video, and look for the positives. There's always positives. Related to yourself, relative to yourself, there are massive positives. Are you fitter today than you used to be? Are you more capable? Are you more able to handle pressure and make decisions under pressure, right? Are you more mobile? Are you more skilled than the person you were? And if you focus on those things, then those are the positives. And so if you're awarded a belt by your instructor, at the end of the day, you have to trust their judgment. If you're training under a competent instructor, and most of them are out there, yeah, of course, there's McDojos and there's people that are terrible out there. It's a bell curve of capability out there. But similar to most bell curves, most instructors are competent. Most instructors have reasonably good judgment for what it means to be a blue belt. And, I've awarded a lot of belts, and I can tell you that our own self-perception is never accurate because we're always in the trenches fighting these battles, and all we can see is, man, I struggle against him, and that guy always gets the best of me, and that guy, I do pretty well against him, but that guy's a nightmare. So we're just seeing this tally of wins versus losses. That's how we perceive our jiu-jitsu, just wins versus losses. If we lose more than we win, then no way, we don't deserve that next belt. But what your instructor is looking at is, what is your knowledge base? What is the quality of your execution? How fluid are your transitions? Do you have answers to the problems that the people put you under? And so they're looking at a lot of things and making a calculus, including age. Age matters. It's just harder when you get older. And maybe your belief is that you shouldn't award belts to anyone over the age of 40 because you're no longer in your physical prime. Okay, fair enough. That's a perspective. But I think we all realize, I think in a jiu-jitsu school, we all realize that people come in all different shapes and sizes and ages, and nobody in the dojo is judging you unfairly because you're a 48-year-old guy that can't execute the way you would be able to if you were 25. People understand that, right? And there's no shame in that. It's actually incredible that you're still on the mat at age 48, that you're wanting to do this crazy sport that's basically wrestling with joint locks and chokes at the age of 48 or 52 or 56 or 60 or 70. And man, that's worthy of feeling really good about yourself. So if you suffer from imposter syndrome, man, you got to recalibrate. You have to recalibrate and look at the positives in your life and be proud of yourself. Hold yourself to this standard of pride, the same kind of pride you would feel if a friend of yours got promoted to a new belt in jiu-jitsu. You'd be like, way to go, man. You did it. Awesome. But you don't hold yourself to that same standard. Instead, you look at yourself as less than because you're not top of the food chain in your school, or you're not competitive, in your school. But I guarantee that this guy who feels unworthy, I guarantee that his game is decent. I guarantee he knows enough to be a blue belt. Again, if he's under a competent coach, then I'm confident that the promotion was legitimate. Yeah, my heart goes out to anybody experiencing imposter syndrome, because jiu-jitsu is hard enough, honestly. It's hard enough without us making it harder on ourselves by beating ourselves up emotionally because we don't do as well as we think we should do. You have to eliminate expectations. Again, I'm rehashing the old video. We have to eliminate expectations of result. Place expectations on yourself only on the things you can control. Everything else is out of your hands, and be content with it. Leave the academy, not too high, not too low. Seek the middle path. Look at the things you did well. Look at the fact that you can still train jiu-jitsu at whatever age you are. And that should be enough. It should be enough. All right, my friend, if you're watching, I wish you well, and get your butt back into class, man. That's the best thing you can do, is get back into class and keep chipping away at jiu-jitsu. The problems never end. The conundrums never end. The battles never end. So you just have to embrace it. Embrace the path and be content with it. All right. Do you suffer from imposter syndrome? Let me hear about it below. I'll talk to you next time.